Welcome to the Southern Underworld, your place for original horror, sci-fi, and thriller content where the stories are always written with heart. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. We'd love to know in what part of the world you are watching and what is your favorite horror movie of all time. Thank you for watching and enjoy the video. My hand won't stop shaking as I write this. The gold flake pulses beneath my skin, calling me back to that cursed field where it all began. I need to warn others before the hunger consumes me completely. The case started like any other in my failing detective agency. A widow, Mrs. Boyd, walked into my office clutching a crumpled photograph. Her husband had vanished in Ireland 3 weeks ago after sending cryptic messages about finding real leprechaun gold. "Please, Mr. Calloway," she begged, sliding the photo across my desk. "Something's wrong. The embassy won't help. The police think I'm crazy." The picture showed a grinning man beside a ring of blackened stones. His eyes reflected an unnatural gleam, even in the faded print. I took the case, not from kindness, but desperation. Unpaid bills plastered my desk like wallpaper. My reputation lay in tatters after a string of unsolved cases. The flight to Ireland drained my savings. The rental car ate the rest. But standing in that abandoned field, staring at those ancient stones, money seemed meaningless. Power radiated from the circle, pulling at something primitive in my brain. Local farmers crossed themselves when I mentioned the place. "Leprechaun's debt," they whispered. "Dark magic. Old bargains broken." I camped beside the stones, watching, waiting. On the third night, golden light seeped from the earth like blood from a wound. Mr. Boyd emerged from the shadows, but something was wrong. His skin rippled like molten metal, catching moonlight in impossible ways. "More," he croaked, his fingers grasping at nothing. "I need more." I attempted to run, but Boyd moved like mercury, fluid and deadly. His hands clamped around my throat, cold, so cold. Up close, I saw the horror of his transformation. Veins of pure gold threaded through his flesh. His eyes were solid amber, the pupils replaced by spinning coins. "The gold shows you everything," he rasped. "Power, wealth, immortality. Once it's inside, you understand." I broke free, but not before his golden touch left a mark. A single flake, no bigger than a fingernail, embedded in my palm. Mrs. Boyd found her husband at dawn cradling piles of dirt and stone. His skin had hardened completely, a statue of solid gold frozen in eternal greed. She wept, touching his metallic cheek. His eyes snapped open. "It's not enough," he whispered. I fled Ireland, but the curse followed. The gold flake burns beneath my skin. My fingers twitch toward anything valuable. Yesterday, I pawned my wedding ring. This morning, I emptied my savings account. The hunger grows. I count my pocket change obsessively. Copper pennies disgust me. Only gold will do. Pure, perfect gold. I see now why Boyd couldn't stop. The gold whispers promises, shows visions of wealth beyond imagination. My skin tingles, yearning for transformation. The plane ticket to Ireland sits on my desk. The stones call to me, promising relief if I just give in. My hands shake as I write this last warning. Stay away from the black stones, ignore the golden light. Don't make the same mistake we did. But if you're reading this, it's probably too late. The gold knows your name now. I can feel it spreading through my veins, turning my blood into liquid metal. The hunger consumes everything. It's not enough. It's never enough. I trace the shamrock on my door every morning, wondering when the golden thread will come from my lips. The blood has dried brown now, but my name beneath it gleams fresh and wet. Always wet, never drying. My mother's bedroom remains untouched. Her coffee cup still sits on the kitchen counter. lipstick staining the rim. I can't bring myself to wash it. It started with my article about the missing Walsh twins. Their mother found matching shamrocks painted on their bedroom doors, the blood still dripping down the wood grain. The police blamed teenage pranks. Animal blood, they said. Nothing to fear in sleepy Pine Grove, Indiana. But I knew better. I'd heard the whispers. More pairs vanished. The Martinez sisters from the grocery store. Old Bill Thompson and his grandson. Each disappearance was marked by those bloody shamrocks, like some twisted calling card. My research led me to town records from 1973. 6 people vanished that March. And in 1923, 6 more. Always in pairs. Always before St. Patrick's Day. The papers called it the curse of the Clover Man. Dana helped me dig deeper. We found journals, letters, and police reports, all describing a faceless figure in black, carrying a golden sickle. He whispered names in the dark, hunting soul twins for his bloody harvest. "You're obsessed," Dana said that last night, packing up the archive boxes. "Some stories should stay buried." She disappeared 3 days later. I woke to tapping on my window. Dana stood outside, pale as moonlight. Her eyes stared through me, empty as the winter sky. Gold thread zigzagged across her lips, pulling the skin tight. Behind her loomed a figure in a black coat. Where his face should have been, shadows writhed like smoke. The golden sickle in his hand caught the streetlight, throwing fractured rainbows across my wall. "Choose," Dana's voice echoed in my head, though her sewn lips never moved. "Choose who takes your place." The Clover Man reached for me with hands like twisted roots. Panic clawed up my throat. I needed to say a name. Any name. "My mother," I choked out. "Take my mother instead." Dana collapsed. The Clover Man vanished. I slammed the window shut and huddled under my blankets like a child, praying for morning. I woke to sunshine and silence. My mother's bed was empty, the sheets cold. The shamrock appeared on my door within the hour, my name glistening beneath it like fresh tears. Now I understand the curse. The Clover Man doesn't just want sacrifices. He wants guilt, shame, the knowledge that we chose to feed his hunger. Each victim must betray someone they love, continuing the chain. Dana visits sometimes, standing silent in my yard at night. The golden threads catch moonlight as she mouths words I can't understand, or won't understand. I've started hearing whispers in the dark, names, so many names. Soon the Clover Man will return. He'll make me choose again. Part of me hopes I'll be stronger next time, that I'll refuse to condemn another soul. But I know the truth. When he comes, I'll give him what he wants. I'll speak a name. And somewhere in Pine Grove, another bloody shamrock will bloom. The whispers grow louder each night. My lips tingle as if already feeling phantom threads pulling them shut. Next March, someone will find my body, my mouth sewn with gold, and the cycle will continue. Because in Pine Grove betrayal grows like clover, spreading its roots through generations, we feed it with our choices, water it with our tears, and paint its leaves in blood. The shamrock on my door pulses like a heart. My name drips endlessly beneath it. Always wet, never drying, waiting for the next harvest. I never planned to spend eternity in a bar, but here I am, trapped in this verdant void, watching another group of victims stumble through our door. The memories of that night pierce through my mind like shattered glass. March 17th, 2024. Boston's streets pulsed with life as my friends and I wandered through the cobblestone maze of downtown, our heads buzzing from too many pints at the local pubs. "Look at this place," Aaron said, pointing to a narrow staircase descending between 2 brick buildings. A neon shamrock flickered above, casting an otherworldly glow on the wet pavement. None of us remembered seeing it before, despite passing this spot countless times. The doorman materialized from the shadows. His skin glowed like moonlight, and his emerald eyes burned through the darkness. "Welcome to the green room," he purred, gesturing toward the entrance. "Tonight, indulgence comes without cost." The scent of whiskey wrapped around us like silk as we descended. The bar stretched endlessly into darkness, its mahogany surface gleaming under emerald lights. Every patron wore green, suits, dresses, scarves, their faces frozen in perpetual ecstasy. Jason grabbed my arm. "Something feels wrong," he whispered, but the bartender appeared before us with shots of vivid green liquid. "First rounds on the house," she said, her smile too wide, too sharp. The liquid burned like frost and fire. The room began to spin, conversations blending into a hypnotic symphony. I watched the same man tell the same joke 3 times. A woman by the piano laughed identically every few minutes. "I need the bathroom," Aaron announced, pushing through the crowd. We never saw her again. Jason gripped the bar counter, his face pale. "The mirror," he gasped. "My reflection. It winked at me. Then it walked away." Panic clawed at my chest as we searched for the exit. The door had vanished, replaced by a massive, pulsating shamrock carved into the wall. Green light spilled from its edges, drawing us closer like moths to a flame. The bartender appeared behind us, her teeth glinting like needles. "The green room isn't a bar," she hissed. "It's a threshold. And now, you belong to it." We ran. The shamrock pulled us in, its light consuming everything. When I opened my eyes, I wore an emerald suit. My smile felt painted on. Jason stood beside me in a green vest, his eyes vacant. Now we serve a darker purpose. Every St. Patrick's Day, we lure fresh souls into our eternal party. I watch them enter, knowing their fate. Their terror mirrors my own from that cursed night, but I can't stop myself. My words flow automatically, welcoming them to their doom. The green light pulses, the music plays, the drinks flow, and somewhere in this twisted realm, Erin still searches for that bathroom she'll never find. I see you there, reading this on your phone, planning your St. Patrick's Day celebrations. Consider this a warning. If you spot a bar with a flickering shamrock sign, if a pale doorman offers you free entry if the air smells of whiskey and regret, run. But you won't, will you? They never do. And I'll be waiting, dressed in green, ready to buy you a drink you'll never finish. After all, the green room always needs new performers for its eternal show. The neon shamrock flickers. Another group approaches the stairs. "Welcome to the green room. Tonight, indulgence comes without cost." Let me tell you about the St. Patrick's Day that nearly cost me my life. 6 of us, all Americans fresh out of college, had saved up for what we thought would be the trip of a lifetime to Dublin. You know, experience the real deal. Authentic Irish pubs, live music, rivers of Guinness. Man, we were so naive. The night started perfectly. Our first pub was exactly what you'd imagine. Packed with friendly locals, traditional music playing, and this charming bartender telling us wild stories about Irish folklore. His accent was thick as honey, and we hung on to every word about leprechauns and banshees. We were living the dream. The second pub is where things started getting weird. It began innocently enough, these crazy drinking games like trying to throw potatoes into buckets and balancing pints on our heads. Everyone was singing Molly Malone at the top of their lungs, but there was something off about it. The pushing got aggressive, the laughter started sounding wrong, and the songs, they changed into something that made my skin crawl. I remember this red-headed woman challenging me to arm wrestle. Her grip was unnaturally strong, and when I somehow won, the look she gave me, it wasn't normal. It was like watching something inhuman trying to act human and failing. By the third pub, everything had gone sideways. The place was dark, smelling like stale beer and something metallic that reminded me of blood. Instead of happy drunks, we found people huddled around a table, chanting in some language I'd never heard. They were focused on this crude symbol carved into the wood, and I knew right then we needed to get out. We tried to leave, but the bartender blocked our path. "More crack, lads," he said. But his voice, it wasn't friendly anymore. It was like hearing a wolf try to sound like a sheep. We ran. God, we ran through those twisting Dublin streets that suddenly felt like a maze designed to trap us. That's when they got Tom, just gone, yanked into the darkness by something we couldn't see. We found this old church, and broke in through a window, hiding behind an overturned altar. That's when Lisa screamed. These things were coming through the stained glass windows. Not people. Creatures with claws and glowing green eyes. Their leader looked like death itself, wearing tattered robes and speaking that same awful language we'd heard in the pub. I tried fighting back with a candlestick, but something invisible threw me against the wall. That's when I realized what was happening. This wasn't just some drunk tourist getting into trouble. This was a trap. The whole night had been carefully planned to lure in sacrifices for whatever ancient horror these things worshipped. Then I remembered something from the bartender's stories. Not the cute touristy stuff, but something darker he'd mentioned. I tore a page from an old prayer book and drew a symbol I'd seen in the pub, but reversed it. The creatures stepped back when they saw it. I started repeating words I'd heard earlier that night, broken Gaelic probably, but I put everything I had into it. The temperature dropped, and the shadows seemed to come alive. Their leader let out this scream that felt like it was tearing reality apart, and then this blinding light erupted from my symbol. They just dissolved into green smoke. When the police found us the next morning, they blamed it on a gas leak. But we knew what really happened. We'd seen behind Dublin's friendly facade into something ancient and evil that still lives there, waiting for more tourists who don't know any better. I don't celebrate St. Patrick's Day anymore. I can't stand the sight of green beer, and I can't hear Irish music without feeling sick. Sometimes I wake up hearing that chanting, and I check the news for missing tourists in Dublin, because I know those things are still there, still hunting, still waiting for the next group of Americans who think they're just going on a fun pub crawl. But hey, at least now you know why I never order Guinness and why I get nervous when people start singing drinking songs. Some traditions are better left alone, and some celebrations hide monsters behind their smiles. You know how people always talk about their crazy St. Patrick's Day stories? Well, mine isn't about getting drunk or finding a lucky penny. Mine's about how I almost got turned into some kind of emotional vampire and how I ended up having to save the entire city. I know it sounds insane, but hear me out. I've always hated St. Patrick's Day, just not my scene. All those packed bars with people wearing plastic shamrock necklaces and fake Irish accents. But last year, I thought I'd try something different. I downloaded this dating app called Kiss Me Clover. Yeah, I know, the name should have been my first warning. The app looked normal enough, just your typical dating interface with a St. Patrick's Day theme. Little green clovers showing matches nearby, this cheesy leprechaun mascot winking at you. I matched with this guy Alex right away. We chatted for a bit and he seemed pretty normal, funny even. When he suggested meeting at this new underground bar downtown, I figured why not? The bar was one of those trying too hard hipster places, all dark wood and whiskey bottles. Alex looked better than his photos. Tall, nice smile, hazel eyes. We had a few drinks, things were going well, and then we kissed. After that, everything went sideways. It felt wrong. Like really wrong. When I pulled back, his eyes had changed color. They were this sick yellow color, like a cat's eyes but worse. And his skin had gone all pale and clammy. I knocked over my drink getting away from him, but I didn't care. I just ran. Here's where it gets even crazier. When I got home, I started seeing all these social media posts about people getting sick after using the Kiss Me Clover app. Everyone had the same symptoms: pale skin, yellow eyes, and this weird obsession with finding someone to kiss. It was spreading like wildfire. I dug into the app company, but there was almost nothing about them online. That's when I started researching old Irish folklore. Don't ask me why, I was desperate, and found something about a fey banshee that could steal people's ability to feel love, leaving them desperate for affection. Somehow, this thing had gone digital. I spent days trying to figure out what to do. The streets were getting dangerous, all these infected people wandering around trying to kiss anyone they could find. I finally found this old story about burning a 4-leaf clover under a full moon while saying some ancient words. Look, I know how that sounds, but when you're desperate enough, you'll try anything. The ritual seemed to work, at least partially. It led me to the source, this office building downtown where the app company was supposedly based. The whole place was glowing green, like something out of a sci-fi movie. Inside, I found a room full of servers, all pulsing with this weird light. And there was this thing. Tall, skeletal, with skin like toxic waste and yellow eyes. The Fey Banshee itself. I had brought some homemade firebombs, again desperate times, and started throwing them at the servers. The creature screamed like nothing I've ever heard before. The entire place went up in flames, but it worked. The app disappeared from everyone's phones and the infected people returned to normal. The official story is that it was all mass hysteria, maybe some kind of drug in the water system. But I know what I saw. Sometimes I still see people who were infected. They're normal now, but they have this haunted look in their eyes. They remember. I refuse to use dating apps now. I don't celebrate St. Patrick's Day at all, but I keep watching just in case. Because the scariest part isn't that this happened, it's that it could happen again. These days we invite evil right into our phones, never questioning what's really behind that friendly interface or cute mascot. So yeah, that's my St. Patrick's Day story. Not your typical drunk in a bar tale, but I promise you every word is true. Well, at least as true as I remember it. The whole thing still feels like a nightmare sometimes, but the burn scar on my arm from those homemade firebombs, that's real enough.